The Vorn had hunted across 12 star systems. They were the perfect killers. Standing 8 feet tall with skin like black stone, they moved through the darkness of space like shadows. Their eyes could see heat. Their claws could cut through metal. For 10,000 years, no species had ever defeated them. When their scout ships found Earth, they saw exactly what they expected. Soft creatures. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons. The humans walked slowly on 2 weak legs. They needed machines to survive in space. They needed clothing to stay warmed up. The Vorn High Council watched the recordings and laughed. This would not be a war. This would be a harvest. Yun a Park stood at the window of Europa Station and watched the stars. She was 34 years old, a captain in the United Earth Space Command, and she was tired. The research station had been her home for 3 years. She studied the ice moons of Jupiter and dreamed of finding alien life. She never imagined it would find her first dot. The alarm came at 0347 hours. Red lights filled every corridor. Yuna ran to the command center, her heart beating fast. On the main screen, she saw something that stopped her breath. 3 massive ships hung in the darkness near Callisto. They were black and shaped like teeth. Nothing about them looked friendly. "Captain," said her communications officer, a young man named Doan. "They are not responding to any channel. No reply to our greeting. No reply to anything." Yuna felt cold fear in her stomach. What about the colony ships? The ones heading to Titan? Dahan's face went pale. He put the image on screen. The colony ships were gone. Where 3 vessels carrying 40,000 people had been, there was now only fire and floating metal. Small black shapes moved through the wreckage. They were Vorn hunters, collecting bodies. Yuna's hand shook. She had never seen death like this. No warning. No demands. Just killing. "Send everything to Earth," she whispered. "Every image. Every reading. They need to know." 400 million kilometers away, Taiho Kim was trying not to die. He was 28 years old, a lieutenant aboard the defense cruiser Horizon. When the Vorn appeared near Saturn, his ship was the only military vessel in the area. Captain Jian had ordered an immediate attack. That was a mistake. The Vorn ship was 5 times larger than the Horizon. Its weapons cut through their shields like paper. In 90 seconds, half the crew was dead. Captain Jian was dead. The engines were failing, and fire filled the lower decks. Taiho took command because there was no one else left. "All power to rear thrusters," he ordered. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his head. "Take us into the rings, now." The pilot, a woman named Jiwan, looked at him with wide eyes. "The rings? We will be torn apart by the rocks." "Maybe, but out here, we are already dead. Move." The Horizon dove into Saturn's rings. Ice and stone crashed against the hull. The ship screamed with the sound of metal bending. But the Vorn did not follow. Their large ship could not navigate the chaos of 1 billion frozen rocks. Taiho watched the enemy vessel circle outside the rings like a hungry animal waiting for its meal to come out. "Record everything," Taiho told his surviving crew. There were only 19 of them left from a crew of 106. Their weapons, their ship design, their movement patterns. "If we die here, Earth needs to know what killed us." For 6 hours they hid in the ice and stone. Taiho studied the Vorn ship through their damaged sensors. He noticed things. The enemy weapons took time to recharge. Their ship turned slowly. They hunted in patterns, like animals following instinct. They were predators. And predators had weaknesses. When the Vorn ship finally left to join the attack on other targets, Taiho sent everything to Earth. Every observation, every theory, every guess about how to fight these monsters. He did not know if anyone would hear it. He did not know if it would matter. but he sent it anyway. On Earth, the message arrived at midnight in Seoul. General Ji-hoon-beek was sleeping when his phone rang. He was 61 years old, a veteran of 3 wars, and he had thought he understood combat. He was wrong. He watched the recordings in silence. The colony ships burning. The horizon's desperate flight. The black shapes of Vorn hunters moving through wreckage, collecting human bodies like trophies. His aide, a colonel named Soyeon, stood beside him. "Sir, what do we do?" Ji-hoon did not answer immediately. He watched the Vorn ship on screen. He watched how it moved, how it killed, how it showed no mercy and expected no resistance. "They think we are animals," he realized. "They think we will run and hide and wait to die." "Contact every military command on Earth," he said quietly. "Every country, every base, every ship. Sir, that will take. Do it now." His voice was hard. "Tell them what is coming. Tell them we have months, maybe less. And tell them this." He turned to face her, and his eyes were cold. "We are not going to run. We are not going to hide. We are going to make them regret ever finding us." In the weeks that followed, the Vorn conquered Mars. They built hunting grounds on Earth's moon. They broadcast their kills across the galaxy, showing other species what happened to weak creatures. They expected humanity to fall apart. They expected panic and chaos and despair. Instead, something strange happened. Earth went quiet. The broadcast stopped. The radio signals stopped. The satellites went dark. From the outside, it looked like humanity had simply given up. The Vorn celebrated. Another easy conquest. But across the galaxy, older species watched Earth's silence with different eyes. They had seen this before, long ago, in species that no longer existed. Species the Vorn had destroyed. That silence was not surrender. It was focused. An ancient diplomat from a conquered world sent a single message to the Vorn High Council. It contained only one sentence: "You have made a terrible mistake." The Vorn ignored it. They were the greatest hunters in the galaxy. What could soft, weak humans possibly do? They would learn. The whole galaxy would learn. Humanity was done being prey. 6 months passed in silence. The Vorn did not understand silence. Their species communicated through growls and screams and the sound of claws on metal. Silence meant death. Silence meant the hunt was over. They believed Earth had accepted its fate. They were wrong. Deep, beneath the frozen surface of Europa, 10,000 workers carved tunnels through ancient ice. They worked in complete darkness. No lights that could be seen from space. No heat signatures that Vorn sensors could detect. Just human hands and human machines, building something the galaxy had never seen. Admiral Ji-hoon-beek stood in the main construction bay and watched the skeleton of a warship take shape. It was ugly. It was rough. It looked nothing like the sleek vessels other species built, but it would kill. How many? He asked his chief engineer. Sun Woo-han wiped grease from his hands. He was 45 years old, thin and tired, but his eyes burned with purpose. 47 combat ships ready. Another 60 in final assembly. We will have over 200 before they come. Will it be enough? Sun Woo looked at the half-built warship above them. I do not know, but I know this: every ship we build will take 10 of theirs with it. I have made sure of that. The weapons were new. The designs were desperate. But desperation made humans creative in ways the Vorn could not imagine. In a different section of the Europa base, Narration had not slept in 3 days. She was a xenobiologist, 31 years old, and she had spent her career studying theoretical alien life. Now she studied real aliens, and what she found gave her hope. Their eyes, she said to the gathered officers. Her voice was rough from exhaustion, but excitement made it strong. Look at their eyes. She pointed to the image on screen. A Vorn hunter, captured from battle footage, its face frozen in a moment of attack. They see heat, thermal vision. It makes them perfect hunters in darkness. But it has a weakness. She changed the image. Now it showed the same scene through a thermal camera. They cannot see cold objects. Anything below freezing is invisible to them. Not hidden, completely invisible. They literally cannot see it. General Ji-hoon leaned forward. You are certain? I have tested it 100 times with the captured Vorn tissue samples. Below -40 degrees, they are blind. The room went quiet as the officers understood what this meant. Their armor, Nari continued. It is organic, grown from their own bodies. It stops bullets, explosions, even plasma weapons. But it has joints, connections between the plates. If we freeze those joints and then apply extreme heat immediately after, the armor cracks. It actually shatters. Sun Wuhan smiled for the first time in months. Cryomissiles followed by plasma bursts. I can build that. Build 1,000 of them, Ji-hoon ordered. Build 10,000. But weapons were only part of the plan. The real advantage was something no one could build. Something humans simply were. Dr. Hyung-oh ran the medical research division. She was 50 years old, calm and patient, and she had made a discovery that changed everything. Vorn hunters can fight for 6 hours, she explained at the next meeting. After that, they need 12 hours of rest. Their biology demands it. They cannot push past this limit without dying. And humans? Ji-hoon asked, though he already knew the answer. Humans can operate effectively for 20 hours with short breaks. In emergency conditions, we can function for 3 days with minimal sleep. Our bodies produce stress hormones that keep us alert. We feel pain, exhaustion, fear, but we can ignore all of it when survival requires it. She pulled up more data. Their atmosphere needs to be precise. Wrong temperature, they slow down. Wrong pressure, they become confused. Wrong humidity, their skin cracks. Humans? We have lived in deserts, frozen mountains, underwater bases, and space stations. We adapt to almost anything. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. They are stronger than us, faster than us. Their weapons are better, their ships are bigger, their empire is older. Yes, but we can outlast them. We can fight in places they cannot go. We can keep fighting when they need to stop. Yes, Admiral. That is exactly right. Back on Earth, the preparations continued in secret. Factories that once made cars now built weapons. Universities that once competed for funding now shared every discovery freely. Old enemies worked side by side. Russia gave its submarine technology to America. China shared its tunnel-building expertise with Europe. India's software engineers worked with Japan's robotics experts. For the first time in human history, there were no nations. There was only Earth. And Earth was angry. Minji Choi was 26 years old and had been a pilot before the invasion. Now she commanded a Ghost Squad 50 volunteers who lived in the asteroid belt and made life miserable for the Vorn. Her team never attacked directly. They were too small for that. Instead, they planted bombs on Vorn supply ships. They hacked their communications. They spread false signals that sent hunting parties into empty space, and they watched. Every patrol route was recorded. Every supply schedule was noted. Every weakness was cataloged and sent back to Europa. They are getting frustrated, Minji reported to Admiral Ji-hoon via encrypted channel. Their hunters want a real fight. They are not used to enemies who refuse to stand still. Good. Keep making them angry. Angry enemies make mistakes. And when do we stop hiding? Ji-hoon looked at the latest reports. The fleet was almost ready. The weapons were tested. The soldiers were trained. Soon, They are sending their third fleet to finish us. 200 warships. 50,000 hunters. They think it will be a slaughter. Minji's voice carried a cold smile. It will be. Yes, but not the slaughter they expect. On Mars, the Vorn commanders received their orders. Destroy Earth. Kill every human. And this quickly, so they could move on to more interesting prey. They prepared their greatest fleet. They sharpened their claws and tested their weapons and dreamed of the glory waiting for them. Not one of them imagined they were flying into a trap. Not one of them knew that the soft ones had spent 6 months preparing a welcome gift. Not one of them understood that they had woken something ancient and terrible in humanity. Something that slept in every human heart. Something that had helped their ancestors kill mammoths with sticks and survive ice ages with nothing but fire and will. The Vorn saw themselves as the greatest predators in the galaxy. They were about to meet something worse. They were about to meet humans who had nothing left to lose. The third fleet of the Vorn Empire was the largest hunting force ever assembled. 200 warships stretched across the darkness between Mars and Earth. 50,000 hunters waited in their transport vessels, eager for blood. At the center of the formation flew the flagship World Breaker, a vessel so large it had its own gravity. Fleet Commander Vorath stood on the bridge and watched Earth grow larger on the view screen. He was old for a Vorn, nearly 200 years, and he had personally killed more prey than any hunter in history. His body was covered in scars from 1,000 battles. His name was spoken with fear across 12 conquered systems. This would be his final hunt. After this, he would retire to his homeworld and spend his remaining years telling stories of glory. He expected no difficulties. Scan the planet, he ordered. His sensor officer worked the controls. No military signals detected. No warships in orbit. Their defense satellites appear inactive. Vorath made a sound of disgust. They have given up. Cowards. I wanted to fight. There are energy readings on the surface. Cities still functioning. Perhaps we can hunt them on the ground. That would be acceptable. Vorath turned to his communications officer. Broadcast to the fleet. Begin landing operations. And broadcast to the planet. I want them to see death coming. The message went out across all frequencies. The Vorn announcement was simple. Surrender, you leaders. Submit to harvesting. Those who cooperate will die quickly. Earth did not respond. In the hidden base on Europa, Admiral Jihun Beek watched the Vorn fleet approach on the tactical display. His officers stood around him, silent and tense. After 6 months of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. How many ships did they have? He asked, though he already knew. 207 combat vessels, replied his tactical officer, plus transport and support craft. Total enemy personnel estimated at 60,000. And our fleet? 182 combat vessels. 47,000 personnel. The numbers were not good. The Vorn had more ships, more hunters, better technology. Any sensible species would surrender. Jihun smiled. Begin Phase 1. Across the solar system, hidden transmitters activated. They sent out signals that mimicked human military communications, fake battle orders, false fleet movements, phantom distress calls. The signals came from asteroids, from abandoned satellites, from the dark side of every moon. The Vorn sensors went crazy. Suddenly, there were human ships everywhere. Dozens of contacts, hundreds. Their tactical displays filled with enemies that did not exist. What is happening? Vorath demanded. Unknown Commander. We are detecting human fleet movements throughout the system. But the signatures are strange. They appear and disappear. Ghosts. Electronic tricks. Vorath waved a clawed hand dismissively. Ignore them. continued toward Earth. But ignoring them was not easy. The fake signals demanded attention. Vorn captains broke formation to chase phantom enemies. Hunting parties launched toward asteroids that contained nothing but transmitters. And while the Vorn were distracted, the real human fleet waited. On Europa, Hajun Lee sat in the cockpit of his fighter and tried to control his breathing. He was 30 years old, a sergeant and squadron leader, and in a few minutes he would lead the first wave of the attack. His hands were shaking. He did not try to stop them. Around him, 200 pilots waited in their ships. The launch bay was completely dark, no lights that might be detected. Only the soft glow of instrument panels broke the blackness. All pilots, this is Admiral Beak. The voice came through his headset, calm and steady. The enemy fleet is now at optimal position. Phase 2 will begin in 3 minutes. Hajun closed his eyes and thought about his family. His mother in Bizan, his younger sister studying medicine in Seoul. He had not spoken to them in 6 months. He might never speak to them again. I know many of you are afraid, the Admiral continued. I am afraid too. But fear is not weakness. Fear means we understand what we are fighting for. Fear means we are still human. Hajun opened his eyes. His hands had stopped shaking. Today we show the galaxy what humans can do. Today we stop being prey. Whatever happens in the next hours, remember, you are not alone. Every human on Earth is with you. Every human who ever lived is with you. We are one species, and we do not surrender. The channel went silent. Hajun looked at the countdown timer. 2 minutes. He opened the private channel to his squadron. Listen to me. Do not try to be heroes. Follow the attack plan. Watch each other's backs. And if you see a chance to hurt them, take it. Sergeant. The voice belonged to his wingman, a young woman named Yoonji. What if we do not come back? Hajun thought for a moment. Then we make sure they remember our names. We make sure they bleed for every one of us they kill. We make sure the next humans who fight them have an easier time because of what we did today. Is that enough? It has to be. 60 seconds. In the vacuum outside, the Vorn fleet had almost reached Earth. Commander Vorath watched the blue planet fill his view screen and felt satisfaction. Another world. Another victory. The humans had not even tried to fight. Commander. His sensor officer's voice was uncertain. I am detecting heat signatures inside Europa. Large heat signatures. Vorath frowned. Europa is ice and rock. There is nothing there. The signatures are very large, Commander, and they are moving toward the surface. Before Vorath could respond, Europa exploded with light. Not an actual explosion. Something worse. 200 warships burst from hidden hangars beneath the ice, their engines blazing like stars. They rose from the frozen moon in perfect formation, weapons already charging. The Vorn fleet was between Earth and Europa, caught in the middle, exactly where Ji-hoon wanted them. All ships fire, Hajun commanded, and pressed his trigger. The first wave of cryo-missiles streaked across the void. They were painted black, invisible to Vorn thermal sensors. The hunters never saw them coming. The missiles struck the nearest Vorn vessels and detonated. Supercool gas covered the warship hulls. Ice formed on their armor. Sensor arrays went blind. 3 seconds later, the plasma bursts followed. The frozen Vorn armor shattered like glass. Ships that had conquered worlds cracked open and spilled their hunters into space. Fire bloomed in the darkness. In the first minute of battle, humanity destroyed 18 Vorn warships. The prey had become the hunter, and the real fight was just beginning. The Battle of Earth lasted 72 hours. In the first wave, humanity drew blood. 18 Vorn warships died in minutes, caught by surprise and killed by weapons they had never seen before. For a brief moment, the human fleet tasted victory. Then the Vorn recovered. Commander Vorth was old, but he was not stupid. He had survived 200 years of war by learning quickly. Within minutes, he understood what the humans had done. The cold missiles, the plasma follow-up, the ambush from Europa. Adjust thermal sensors to detect mass, not heat, he commanded. Target their missile launchers first. And spread the fleet. Do not let them catch us grouped together again. The Vorn adapted. They always adapted. That was why they had conquered 12 star systems. But so did humanity. Hajun Li flew through a storm of fire. His squadron had started with 24 fighters. Now there were 9. Around him, human ships died in bursts of light, each one carrying friends he had known, people he had laughed with, pilots who had trusted him to lead them. He did not let himself mourn. There was no time for grief. There was only the next target, the next attack, the next second of survival. Squadron 7, concentrate fire on that carrier's engines, he ordered. If we can slow it down, the cruisers can finish it. Sergeant, we have enemy fighters on our tail. Yunji's voice was tight with fear. 6 of them. Hajun checked his display. He saw the Vorn fighters coming, their weapons charging. He saw Yunji's ship, damaged and slow, trying to escape. He turned his fighter toward the enemy. Yunji, keep going. Hit that carrier. What are you? That is an order. He flew straight at the 6 Vorn fighters. His weapons fired continuously missiles, plasma bursts, everything he had. 2 enemy ships exploded. A third spun away, crippled. The remaining 3 hit him with everything they had. His shields failed. His left engine died. Warning lights screamed in his cockpit. But his charge had bought Yunji enough time. He watched on his dying display as her missiles struck the Vorn carrier's engines. The carrier began to drift, helpless. 3 human cruisers moved in for the kill. Not bad, Hajun whispered. And prepared to die. The rescue shuttle found him 2 hours later, floating in his broken cockpit with 6% oxygen remaining. He had survived. He did not know how. He did not question it. He just asked for another ship. They gave him one. On the medical ship Defiance, Hyung-Oh worked without stopping. She was not a combat medic, she was a research doctor, but in battle. Everyone with medical training served in the trauma bays. The wounded came in waves. Burn victims. Radiation poisoning. Decompression injuries. Young people with old eyes, holding themselves together long enough to ask about their friends. Doctor. A nurse grabbed her arm. We are out of plasma. The next supply ship is an hour away. Hyun looked at the soldier on the table in front of her. A girl, maybe 19, with burns covering half her body. Without plasma replacement, she would die. Then we use what we have for the ones who can survive. Triage protocol. This girl has a 30% chance. The soldier behind you has 70%. We save the ones we can. A voice broke slightly. That is how we win. By making hard choices. The nurse nodded and moved away. Hyung let herself close her eyes for 3 seconds. Then she opened them and continued working. Somewhere in the battle, a decision was being made. Captain Yuna Park stood on the bridge of the assault ship. Ghostin watched the Vorn flagship Worldbreaker on her display. It was huge, 20 times the size of any human vessel. Its weapons could destroy cities. Its commander had killed more beings than any hunter alive, and she was going aboard it. Docking team ready, her tactical officer reported. 30 volunteers. Light armor, plasma cutters, thermal charges. I am going with them. Captain, you cannot. I survived the first attack. I watched 40,000 people die because I could do nothing. She turned to face him. I will not watch from safety again. Not anymore. The assault was impossible. Everyone knew it. The World Breaker had thousands of hunters aboard. The boarding team would be outnumbered 100 to 1. They went anyway. The Ghost, attached to the World Breaker's hull like a parasite. The boarding team cut through the armor and entered the enemy ship, fighting through corridors designed for creatures twice their size. Hunters fell, but so did humans. For every meter they gained, someone did not come back. Yuna led from the front. She was not the strongest fighter or the best shot, but she knew where she needed to go, the command bridge, where Varth watched the battle from his throne of bones. When she finally reached the bridge, only 4 of her team remained. 4 humans against 50 Vorn guards and the greatest hunter in their empire. Varth laughed when he saw them. The sound was like stones grinding together. You came to kill me? 4 soft creatures against the World Breaker's commander? He rose from his throne, his body unfolding to its full 9 feet of armored death. I will enjoy eating you slowly. Yuna did not speak. She did not threaten. She simply pressed the detonator. The thermal charges on her armor, on all their armor, had been modified by engineer Sun Wuhan himself. They were designed to burn at temperatures hot enough to melt starship hulls. The explosion would kill everyone in the room, including her. For Earth, she said. The bridge became fire. Commander Varth died in the blast. So did Yuna Park and her team. So did every hunter in that room. The World Breaker, its bridge destroyed and its command structure gone, began to drift. Across the Vorn fleet, confusion spread. The flagship was dead. The commander was dead. No one was giving orders. For the first time in their history, the Vorn did not know what to do. Admiral Ji-Hoon Beek saw his opportunity. All ships, maximum attack. Do not let them recover. Do not let them regroup. Push them back. Push them now. The human fleet surged forward. Damaged ships that should have retreated instead charged at full speed. Fighters without weapons rammed enemy vessels. Every human ship became a weapon. The Vorn broke. It happened slowly at first. One ship turned and ran. Then another. Then 10. Then 100. The greatest fleet ever assembled fled from creatures they had called prey. They left behind 97 destroyed warships and 20,000 dead hunters. Humanity had lost half its fleet. Millions were dead. Earth's orbit was filled with wreckage and bodies. But they had won. On the bridge of his battered flagship, Admiral Ji-Hoon Beek watched the Vorn retreat and allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in 6 months. Hope that the war was not over. The Vorn would return with more ships, more hunters, more weapons. But this battle would be remembered. This battle would change everything. The galaxy had seen humans fight. The galaxy had seen humans win. The prey had shown its teeth, and now everyone knew humans were not prey at all. The recordings of the Battle of Earth spread across the galaxy like fire. 1 million species watched the footage. They saw the Vorn flagship explode. They saw the greatest hunter fleet in history run from creatures half their size. They saw humans ram their broken ships into enemies 10 times larger, fighting to the last breath, refusing to accept defeat. For 10,000 years, the Vorn had been the unchallenged predators of the stars. No one had ever defeated them. No one had ever made them retreat. Until now. On 100 conquered worlds, something began to stir. Something that had been sleeping for generations. Something called hope. The Vorn Empire did not fall immediately. Empires never do. But it began to crack. On the mining world of Fortress 7, enslaved workers saw the broadcast and stopped working. When the Vorn guards tried to force them back to the machines, they fought back with pickaxes and bare hands. Half of them died, but the other half took the guards' weapons. On the breeding planet of Silent Garden, captive species being raised as food broke free from their pens. They had no training, no weapons, no plan. They had only rage and the knowledge that somewhere in the stars, The Vorn could be beaten. Rebellions erupted everywhere. And humanity kept fighting. Admiral Ji-hoon Beek, now 71 years old, led the first human fleet beyond the solar system. They did not go to conquer. They went to liberate. The first world they freed was called Memory by its people, Abyswa, planet of gentle creatures who had been hunted for 500 years. When human ships appeared in their sky, they expected more predators. Instead, they found allies. "We are not here to rule you," Ji-hoon told their council. "We are not here to take your resources or your people. We are here because no one deserves to be prey, and because the Vorn made the mistake of attacking us." The Memory people joined the alliance. So did the survivors of Fortress 7 and Silent Garden. So did dozens of other species who had dreamed of freedom but never believed it was possible. The war continued for 10 more years. Humanity learned to fight in ways they had never imagined. They became experts in guerrilla tactics, in turning enemy weapons against their makers, in the patient art of resistance. Dr. Narration became the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council. She was 61 years old now, gray-haired and tired. But her eyes still burned with the same fire that had driven her to discover the Vorn's weaknesses. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from 100 species. Most of them had written humanity off as doomed when the Vorn first attacked. Now they listened. "We are not asking for your help," Nari told them. "We have not asked for help since this war began. We are offering something else. A choice." She looked around the chamber at faces of every shape and color. For 10,000 years, the Vorn have ruled through fear. They have taught every species in this galaxy that resistance is useless, that the strong prey upon the weak, that power is the only law. We are proof that this is a lie. She pulled up images on the display: human ships fighting alongside memory vessels, human soldiers training former slaves, human doctors treating the wounded of a dozen species. We choose to believe in something different. We believe that the strong should protect the weak. We believe that all thinking beings deserve freedom. And we believe that together, the prey can become stronger than any predator. The vote was not unanimous. Some species were too afraid. Some had been broken for too long. But enough of them said yes. The alliance grew 20 years after the first attack. General Taeho Kim led the final assault on the Vorn homeworld. He was 48 years old now, scarred and weathered by 2 decades of war. The young lieutenant who had hidden in Saturn's rings was gone. In his place stood something harder, something forged in fire. The fleet above the Vorn homeworld was the largest in galactic history. Human ships flew alongside vessels from 30 different species. Former prey united against the predators. The Vorn fought with desperate fury. They had never surrendered. They did not know how. But one by one, their ships fell. One by one, their defenses crumbled. When Taeho landed on the planet's surface, the Vorn leadership was waiting. They were old now, the youngest of them born after the war began. They had grown up hearing stories of human ferocity, of human endurance, of the species that refused to die. "We surrender," their leader said. It was the first time those words had ever been spoken in the Vorn language. "What are your terms?" Taeho looked at the creature before him. Once, this species had called humans prey. Once, they had hunted his people for sport. He could have demanded revenge. He could have ordered their extinction. Every human who had lost someone to Vorn claws would have understood. Instead, he said, "Our terms are these. You will free every slave. You will destroy your hunting grounds. You will pay reparations to every species you have harmed. And you will learn to live as equals, not as predators. If we refuse, you will not refuse." Taeho's voice was quiet but certain. "Because you have seen what we do to those who prey on the helpless. And because somewhere, deep in your predator hearts, you know we are right. There was a long silence. Then the Vorn leader bowed his head. That night, the galaxy celebrated. On Earth, old Hajun Lee, Sergeant Lee, they still called him, though he had never accepted promotion, stood outside his home and looked up at the stars. He was 70 years old, his body marked by wounds from 100 battles. He had lost friends, lost squad mates, lost parts of himself that would never return. A young reporter found him there. She was writing a history of the war, collecting stories from those who had lived it. General Kim said, "You were one of the first to fight," she said. "That you led the first attack wave. That you were shot down twice and kept going back. I did what anyone would do. But why? When you were so outnumbered, so outmatched, how did you keep fighting?" Hajun was silent for a moment, remembering the fear, remembering the fire, remembering Yoonji, who had survived the war and now had grandchildren, remembering Unipark, who had not. "They studied everything about us," he finally said. "Our weapons, our bodies, our weaknesses. They thought they knew exactly what we were. But they forgot something important. What was that?" He looked up at the stars that now contained the ships of free people, allies and friends, species that had been saved because humans refused to die. Humans do not know when to quit. We never have. You can beat us down, hurt us, kill us by the millions. But we keep getting up. We keep fighting. We pass the fight to our children, and they pass it to theirs. We do not surrender. We just endure." He smiled, old and tired but proud. "They thought they were hunting us. They were just waking us up. And now the whole galaxy knows you do not hunt humans." He turned to go inside, then stopped. "You let humans hunt for you." Above them, the stars shone bright, and the stars remembered.